Welcome to this explainer. Okay, if you love words, clever jokes, and just kind of figuring out how language works behind the scenes, you are absolutely in for a treat today. We're going to break down exactly how language is manipulated for humorous and honestly deeply memorable effects. We're looking at the incredibly clever ways businesses and journalists play with idioms to grab our attention and literally refuse to let it go. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever actually wondered why certain business names or news headlines just stick in your brain? Like, why do we even bother playing with established idioms in the first place? You know those phrases that already have a set meaning? Well, it's not an accident. It's a highly effective, deliberate strategy to make language work double time for us. So, at its core, we're talking about linguistic wordplay. This is the art of manipulating idioms for humorous effect or just to make a message instantly memorable. When you encounter a really well-crafted play on words, your brain essentially gets to solve a tiny puzzle. And that little aha moment, it releases the spark of satisfaction, making sure that business name or news story anchors itself firmly in our minds. It's super common in journalism and advertising, where capturing attention is just everything. Here's our roadmap for today, pulling these real-world examples straight from our source material. We're going to start with small business branding, specifically hair salons, and then we'll jump right into the high-stakes world of newspaper headlines. Let's get to it. All right, let's kick things off with the classic idiom, fringe benefits. Now, in standard, everyday business English, fringe benefits are those figurative extras you get because of your job, right? On top of your regular pay. Think of things like a company car, health insurance, or maybe a free gym membership. That is the established figurative meaning. Now, what's really interesting here is how a hairdresser takes that corporate phrase and turns it completely on its head. Imagine walking past a hair salon called Fringe Benefits. You've got the figurative job perk on one hand, but a brilliant literal application on the other, because a fringe is literally the hair hanging down over your forehead. It's this fantastic pun contrasting the business idiom with the physical service they actually provide. Let's look at another fantastic salon name, Blown Away. So figuratively, if you're blown away by something, say a great piece of music or a stunning performance, it means it amazes you because it's just that good. But consider the literal application. What does a hairdresser actually do? They literally blow your hair dry with a hairdryer. It's this perfect dual meaning that tells you, hey, you'll get a great blowout, and you're going to be absolutely amazed by the results. And here's a third clever salon name to wrap up this business section. Wavelengths. If two people are on the same wavelength, it's an idiom, meaning they think in the exact same way, right? They understand each other perfectly. But map that onto a hair salon. People literally have or want to get waves in their hair. It maps the idiom so seamlessly onto the physical act of styling. You just can't forget a name like that. So, we've seen how local businesses use this to stand out on the street. But how do journalists use this exact same trick to get you to read the news? Because in a world that is just overflowing with information, a headline has to work incredibly hard to stop you from scrolling or turning the page. The crucial takeaway here is that headline writers are absolute masters of this craft. We're going to quickly decode 6 clever news headlines: post office problems, a fireworks fund, disagreeing opticians, theater managers, agricultural reform, and finally, a beaten chess computer. Each one hides a brilliant literal versus figurative puzzle. Listen to this first headline. Delivery delays part and parcel of post office problems. The report claims recent delays are symptoms of wider issues. Did you spot the pun? Let's break it down. We have the idiom part and parcel, which figuratively means a necessary part of an event that you just can't avoid. But literally, the post office physically delivers letters and parcels. The writer has taken this abstract phrase about inevitability and grounded it in the literal, physical cardboard boxes the institution handles every single day. Moving on, here's our second headline: Fireworks Fund burning a hole in the pocket of City Council. The story is about a city council voting to spend a massive £100,000 on a public fireworks display. It seems they were just itching to spend that money. And this brilliantly illustrates the humor you can inject into a seemingly dry local news story. Figuratively, if money is burning a hole in your pocket, it means you want to spend it as soon as possible. But look at the literal meaning. Fireworks actually burn. If a literal firework went off inside your actual pocket, it would quite literally make a hole. The mental image is hilarious, and it perfectly captures the council's urgency to spend. Let's look at headline number 3. Opticians fails to see eye to eye.
The National Association of British Opticians apparently disagreed today about a new set of industry standards.
This one is just a flawless linguistic puzzle. The idiom not seeing eye to eye is a super common phrase for a dispute, right? But remember their literal profession. Opticians are medical professionals who care for people's eyes to help them see better. Using an eye-based idiom to describe an argument between eye doctors? I mean, that is just journalistic perfection. All right, moving on to headline 4, theater managers finally get their act together. The managers of the Clio Theater have apparently come up with a rescue package to save their venue. This is a fantastic double use of the word act. The idiom, to get your act together, is an informal way of saying someone has finally organized themselves efficiently. But in the literal context of a theater, actors literally act on stage, and performers literally have an act that they put on for the audience. So the management finally organized themselves to save the very place where acts are performed. It's so clever.
Now for a bit of politics. Headline 5, Agricultural Reform Policy. Farmers sit on the fence. The Farmers Union has stated that it remains neutral over the latest plans for reform.
Notice how this builds such a vivid mental image? The idiom to sit on the fence means to delay making a decision when choosing between two different options in a dispute, basically remaining neutral. But when you apply this to farmers, the literal imagery takes over. Farms are defined by physical fences that separate the fields, so you immediately picture a farmer literally sitting atop a wooden fence, looking at two different fields, unable to choose. Really paints a picture, doesn't it? Finally, our last headline. Chess computer beaten by human, designers are back to square one. Software engineers now have to completely rethink the design of their Red Race software because it failed to work as planned against a human player. I find this one incredibly satisfying. The idiom back to square one means you have to work on a plan from the very beginning again because a previous attempt failed and all your progress was wasted. But look at the literal reality of the game. A chessboard literally has 64 squares on it. To start a game of chess, you must literally begin at the first square. The idiom perfectly describes both the failure of the software project and the physical board of the game they are trying to master. Just brilliant. As our source material brilliantly summarizes, news headlines often play with idioms in some way to attract people to read the article. This isn't just about making people laugh, It's a calculated, highly effective tool for engagement. By forcing our brains to quickly process both a literal and a figurative meaning at the exact same time, writers ensure their words stand out in a very crowded marketplace of ideas. And that brings us to the end of this explainer. Now that you know exactly how this linguistic trick works, I guarantee you're going to start seeing it absolutely everywhere, from the names of the cafes on your street to the headlines scrolling across your phone. So I'll leave you with this. What hidden idiom will you spot next in plain sight? Keep your eyes open and enjoy the wordplay. Thanks for joining me.